Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So today, I will begin our discussion on the topic financial ethics based on the verse 282 of Surah Al-Baqarah, often referred to as the verse of indebtedness, which serves as the foundational legal framework for Islamic commercial ethics. It teaches us that financial dealings are a matter of faith, where recording transactions serves to uphold the Islamic principles of accountability and transparency, ensuring the wealth of the community is protected under the sight of Allah. The verse strictly requires that any debt for a specific term must be recorded in writing. In Islamic finance, a written contract is the primary requirement for all significant transactions. This formalizes the agreement, transforming a verbal promise into a verifiable legal record that ensures both parties are held responsible for their obligations. The purpose of this documentation is critical. First, it serves as a preventive measure against human error and forgetfulness, providing a definitive reference for terms and dates. Second, it ensures justice by preventing the exploitation of either party. By maintaining a clear evidentiary trail, the contract safeguards the rights of the creditor, the debtor, and even their heirs, fostering trust within the financial system. However, Islamic law provides flexibility for daily trades. For on-the-spot transactions where goods and cash are exchanged immediately, a written contract is not mandatory. This exception is granted to facilitate commercial efficiency and prevent unnecessary hardship in fast-moving markets. 2. The ethical presence of witnesses remains highly encouraged.
Now, I want to explain about written contract based on Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 282. I will talk about the proper way, the importance, and why we must not harm the scribe and witnesses. First, for the proper way of written contract, we must write all debts or money transaction clearly, especially if there is time to pay. This is to make everything clear. We need a fair and trusted scribe to write the contract. The scribe must write correctly and honestly. The debtor must tell all the details clearly and must not hide anything. If the debtor cannot explain, a guardian can explain for them in a fair way. We also need witnesses, which are 2 men or 1 man and 2 women. The witnesses should help and not refuse. We should write even small amounts so there is no confusion later. But for cash or direct payment, a written contract is not necessary. Now, we move to the importance of written contract and reason why we cannot harm scribe and witnesses. The importance of written contract, it helps to avoid misunderstanding and conflict. Everything is written, so it is clear. It also makes things fair for both sides. No one is cheated. The contract can be used as proof if there is a problem. It also helps to build trust between people. Most importantly, it shows that we follow Islamic teaching. Next, we move to the reason why no harm to scribe and witnesses. The scribe and witnesses must be protected and not be distributed. They should not be forced and pressured to change any information. This is to make sure the contract is honest and correct. It also makes people willing to help in the future. In the end, it helps to keep fairness, honesty, and trust.
I will present my part on the role of witnesses in financial contracts based on Surah Al-Baqarah. So first, regarding the witness in a contract, in Islam, witnesses are required when making financial agreements to ensure transparency and honesty. So the verse mentioned that there should be 2 male witnesses or 1 male and 2 female witnesses. So their main role is to make sure that the agreement is properly observed and clearly understood by both parties involved. So next, the duties of the witness. So a witness must be present during the making of the contract and fully understand the agreement. And they are responsible for giving honest and truthful testimony if any issues arise in the future. And they should also not refuse when they are called to testify, as this is part of their responsibility. And lastly, the importance of having witnesses. Having witnesses help to prevent misunderstanding or dispute between parties. It also protects the right of both sides and ensures that justice is maintained. And in addition, it builds trust and confidence in financial transactions, making agreements more reliable and secure. So, in conclusion, witnesses play a very important role in ensuring fairness, honesty, and trust in financial dealing as guided in Surah Al-Baqarah. So, I think that's all for the role of...
Every action will drive the consequences. Hence, the effects from ethics stated in Al-Baqarah verse 282 can be seen from 3 different perspectives. Firstly, it was transparency. By having a written contract, this will ensure the terms to be more clearer for both parties. Therefore, each party can perform their duties and responsibilities at its best. Furthermore, this is also one of the ways for us to prevent any lawyer element is applied in the transaction, as every kind of details regarding the payment of debt are written clearly in the contract. Next, from the perspective of accountability, written contract will act as a reminder to the debtor to ensure that they pay the debt when it's due. Furthermore, with the engagement of witness, the exploitation of terms can be prevented as they are a neutral person who can confirm that the agreement was made with fairness. Lastly, it was from the perspective of justice in Islamic finance, where both parties can obtain protection under written contract and also witness. The borrowers will be protected from any false claim upon the borrowings made. Meanwhile, the lenders will be protected from any default without proof. Another benefit of making contract with the involvement of witness is that it will ensure that the agreement was made with no coercion.
So next, I will continue with the importance of fear of good in making contracts, the consequences of ignoring it, and how the teaching from Surah Al-Baqarah verse 282 benefit Muslim accountant and society, as well as how we can apply this principle in the future. So firstly, in Islam, every financial transaction must be guided by taqwa, which means fear and consciousness of Allah. When a person has fear of Allah, they will act honestly, responsibly, and carefully when making a contract. So they will ensure that all information is recorded clearly and truthfully because they believe that Allah is always watching their action. So, if a person does not have the fear of Allah, they will act dishonestly. For example, they might manipulate the information, break an agreement, or avoid their responsibilities. This can lead to dispute, loss of trust, and injustice between parties, which can harm both individuals and businesses. Next is teaching from Surah Al-Baqarah verse 282 to emphasize the importance of documentation, fairness, transparency, and accountability in financial transactions. For Muslim accountant, this helps ensure that financial records are accurate, reliable, and free from fraud. For society, it reduces the misunderstanding and builds trust, creating a more ethical and stable financial environment. So last but not least, as future accountant, we must apply these principles by recording the transaction properly, acting with integrity, and ensuring that all contracts follow both legal and Sharia requirements. But most importantly, we must always remember that we are accountable to Allah in everything that we do. So, in conclusion, this teaching guides us to become not only a professional accountant, but also ethical and responsible individuals. So, that's all from us. Thank you.